right now, leadership is in question, not only in our country, but in various organizations. On this week's episode of the Maverick Makers Podcast, I have the delightful Jennifer Hanna. She is the founder of Ignite People Solutions, a leading leadership firm. She works with organizations to build talent and skills. You're going to absolutely love our conversation because we talk about what makes a great leader and how to become one. It really opened up my eyes, and I know it will open yours too. So if you are ready, let's go. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Maverick Makers Podcast. I am thrilled to welcome Jennifer Hanna. She is the founder of Ignite People Solutions. We're going to talk about all things leadership, life, and fun, maybe. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a nice treat to have you here in this context. Jen and I know each other from an entrepreneurship group, so it's really great to get to know you better on the show. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what do you think a maverick is, and what would you describe one as?
I think a maverick, in terms of how I would describe it, is someone who knows what they care about most and has the courage to pursue it. They're very different things. And I think you need both to be a maverick.
I love that answer. That's amazing. Courage. That's really, really important. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And what about some of the mavericks that have been in your life or maybe have been on the sidelines? Has there been anyone that's really influenced your journey?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm such a lifelong learner that I'm constantly looking for people to learn from or to, have some sort of influence on what I'm doing and what I plan to do. One of my early ones, I would say, is a boss I had by the name of Bonnie. I still know her and talk to her. And she was really the first manager I had that showed me what a great leader is. And at the time, I think I felt it, but I didn't really understand what her qualities were that really meant she was such an effective leader. I do know that at the time, one of the ahas I had was, wow, a leader can admit they're not good at something or they have a blind spot and still be such an effective leader for their team. And so she just modeled so many things looking back now that I understand why they had such an impact on me as part of her team. So she's definitely one. Another one I might say, and we can get into the thought leaders I'm a little obsessed with later. um, I think a lot of it was female friendships or fellow parents. I think I quickly learned, wow, um, I really want to spend time professionally and personally with people who, going back to that authentic piece, but have the courage to talk about what mistakes they made. As a parent, really, I messed up. I didn't do well here. Do you have advice? So I was really always influenced and tuned in to people who had that just view on life. And I think it's led me to where I am today. Um, I can go on to I've had so many influences. So if you want more, I've got lots. But those are two, Bonnie and the friends and fellow parents that I've connected with, have had a big influence on my kind of perspective in life, period.
Love it. Amazing. And we will get back to some of your other influences, but let's talk about, you mentioned journey. So let's talk about where you started and where you are today.
Sure. Well, when I started my career, I was actually a teacher 25 years ago.
Didn't know that.
Yes, I taught elementary, I taught high school science and religious studies and geography, actually.
Mm,
And I thought I was going to be a teacher. I'm from long line of teachers,
mm,
but something was holding me back. And again, it's interesting as you get older. I look back now and understand, one of my core values is exploration and learning. And so as rewarding as being a teacher can be, I absolutely needed to feel I had more impact and variety and change and growth in different ways. So I moved from teaching to becoming a behavior therapist. So I actually was studying learning sciences and working under BCBAs who are clinicians that also specialize, and we were working within autism programs. So we were actually it's pretty hardcore in terms of behavioral science
Mhm.
and understanding what leads to someone changing what they say or do. So that was a fascinating program to become a part of. And then eventually I moved into more of a learning and development role in the company. And I really had a light bulb go off when it comes to adult learning and facilitation and training. So I spent about 10 years consulting and training within the school system and training in terms of applied behavioral analysis techniques and autism as well. And then my partner and I, my co-founder and I, after doing some freelancing, I had moved to New York City. Personally, we were there and I was really thinking about what do I want to do with this learning and development role? And we started our own company and started specializing in all things talent development. And over time, we really narrowed down what we care about most and what we wanted our expertise to lie in most. And that was leadership development, how people become better bosses, basically.
Wow, I love that. That's amazing. And tell me what Ignite People Solution does.
So, our company works with organizations or teams that have realized, wow, we don't have enough leaders in our company. We need more leaders and to build a pipeline, and we don't have it yet and don't know how to do it. Or maybe they're going through a reorganization or downsizing and they think, oh, we need to keep our best leaders so that they keep our best contributors. And we'll work with those companies by offering leadership development. So we'll take their leaders and we will measure their leadership skills. We'll take them through training and development and coaching. And then we'll measure at the end of our program how many skills those teams of leaders developed. So
Ooh.
that's where a lot of our focus is. We do team performance training as well, where we work with teams, not just leaders of different functions, and help that team be more productive and higher performing too.
Love it. So let's talk about the different types of leaders because I know there's so many different leadership styles, leaders, and I'd love to hear the types and maybe we can figure out which one I might be.
That's such a great question, Michelle. These terms are, floated around in so many different ways and have so many different meanings. I love my field, but a lot of the terms in my field are really confusing and convoluted. So it's interesting from our perspective with our company, in a simplified way, there's leaders who we would say are more of a command and control leader. I'm in charge. I tell people what to do. And then the other side of that is a servant leader. And yes, you can look at, you can look at a whole bunch of definitions of different types of leaders, but essentially it comes down to old school and what we know works now. We know this command and control and tell people what to do and expect them to follow instructions without questioning or purpose or meaning isn't what works.
Hmm.
Now we know that a leader's job is to serve. Their job is to lift up the experience and the capabilities of the people that work for them. And so, now that is our simplistic view of what we're looking at for a leader. Are you here to serve others? And if you're not here to serve others, leadership maybe isn't for you. And we're pretty candid with our clients about that.
Hmm. That sort of leads me to my next question is can everyone be a leader and can leadership be taught?
Yes, and yes. That's the
Okay.
good news. So
Okay.
in terms of leadership, again, going back to how many ways it's defined, but I prefer a definition of leadership that really doesn't have to do with where your position is in an org chart or whether you have direct reports. When we talk about a leader is someone who's committed to the growth and development of others. And so there's lots of ways that can happen no matter what profession, industry, or level in an organization you might be. So yes, everyone can be a leader. And then in terms of what was that part 2?
So
Repeat
can
that.
it be taught? So can
Oh,
leadership be taught?
ah, again, good news. Absolutely. At our organization, we really care about what are the skills that every leader can have, no matter what your industry is, that's going to bring up the performance of your team. And so when we look at those sets of skills, we're often working with tools through companies like Human Synergistics or Reach Leadership that assess and have been proven to identify what these sets of 12 or 16 skills look like. And so the names of them can vary, but I will at least tell you some of the foundational skills. So, without question, if a leader doesn't have an understanding of what psychological safety means for a team or trust, if they don't have a very high level of emotional intelligence, and they don't understand how to have coaching conversations with people slash communication skills, everything else that falls under that umbrella of leadership skills like delegation, setting expectations, creating working agreements, decision making, strategic thinking, all those things matter, but they don't matter until some of those foundational skills are really there. And that's why in a lot of our programs, we have the first three modules or more that are non negotiable with clients. You will go through these foundational skills before we talk about customization because they really are what determines how effective your team is going to be. Specifically psychological safety, but I won't go down that nerdy rabbit hole right now. But that is a big one. If people wanna look up one thing in their leader, that's the one to look up.
Amazing. You kind of rhymed off a few skills and traits, but according to you, what makes a great leader?
For me, it really is someone who is able to be authentic, and what I mean by that is they're able to lead with both, assertiveness and confidence and courage, but with humility and the ability to ask for feedback about their blind spots. I think what I've learned in all the different contexts I've worked with leaders is the strongest leaders, by through my assessments or just through my observation, are the ones who are seeking to find out what they're not very good at as a leader. That's when I know I'm dealing with a real leader, is when they wanna know, "What is it I don't do well that I don't understand or I'm not aware of? What does my team say I'm not doing well that I don't recognize?" And they solicit it versus an open door policy. They seek it out, what their blind spots. That's what I think a leader is.
That's amazing. So there's a vulnerability piece that's really important.
That's such a great word. That
Hmm.
vulnerability piece is huge, and it's interesting, people think when you're building trust that if I help you, that's the first way, the most effective way to build trust. What we know from the research is the fastest way to build trust with another person is to ask for help. And so when we're working with our leaders, we talk a lot about that. Where is there a place that you're showing professional vulnerability and you're able to say, I this is something I don't really have expertise in. What can you tell me be a better idea here? And those are the moments that impact people and teams really quickly. I mean, that's the good news. These things can be improved, developed, and impact your team really quickly if you're committed.
Love that. That's amazing. And who are some of the leaders out there that you've identified, maybe from afar or who you admire, who are like really doing it well?
It's funny, when it comes to me recognizing for myself who I feel that way about, I've recognized I have a thought that goes through my head when I'm exposed to a thought leader or someone inspirational in my field. And it's consistently the thought, if I could just follow them around and bring them coffee for like 2 weeks, I would die for that opportunity. So there's a number of people that I feel that way about. I would say some of the ones that are really, at the top of my list right now are people like, Brené Brown, and I know a lot of people are familiar with her work. She really talks to core values and courage in leadership. So, I love how accessible she's made leadership as a human being, not just at work, for people out there. My two of my other ones, one is Simon Sinek, and I know a lot of us might have heard of him before. His work with people understanding purpose and meaning in life is such a pillar in what we do for our leaderships and leadership programs and our leaders. And his ability to take research and distill it so people can understand things, it is just such a gift. So he's a huge one, and he really has brought attention to what's the difference between a high performer and someone who is high or low trust. So he's really had people understand, and I'm sure, Michelle, you've been here, how often we work with someone on a team or in a group that is really the highest performer in the team, but no one trusts them and they bring a toxicity, but the organization doesn't want to make a change because individually they're such a high performer. He does a great job and opened our eyes at Ignite to that conversation with leaders. Sometimes you have to think about whether someone is helping the whole team rise up and be successful, or if they're just as an individual being successful and actually hampering the performance of everyone else. So I love him for that. Um, and then another one would be Adam Grant. I don't know how many people are familiar with Adam Grant, but he is a social scientist and he has a lot of great research around organizational effectiveness and teams and performance. So those are the three that are my, I would say, go to in most cases.
Love it. And what piece of advice would you give to an aspiring leader?
Oh, I think one of the things I would suggest is for them to find a mentor. And when I say a mentor, I also want you to think about someone beyond the traditional definition of a mentor that will give you really candid advice and feedback. That is someone that you'll talk about your blind spots with. So the mentor would be number one. And number two would be if you have an opportunity to do an assessment or a 360, both of those opportunities are going to allow you to build some self awareness because the fastest way you're going to become an influential leader and the fastest way you're going to build your career is really um, honestly understanding your strengths and your gaps and weaknesses. And that's the courage piece, right? We go full circle back to courage. You have to be courageous if you want to be a people leader, and you need to be able to know what your blind spots are.
Amazing. That's great advice. How you feeling about the lightning round? You ready to go?
Yes. Yes. We'll see. I mean, who knows what's going to come out of my mouth? We'll see.
All right then. So here we go. Hot or cold?
Cold.
Okay. Early riser or night owl?
Early riser.
Okay. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Favorite dessert?
Cheesecake.
Okay. Okay. Most provoking movie you have watched?
Wow. I apologize if I'm breaking the rules, but that show 13 Reasons as a parent with a teenager, my
Yeah.
partner and I, that both hit us in a very provocative way in a lot of senses.
Okay.
I was right off the top of my head though, so
Oh, that was great. I still haven't watched it, but I've heard it's fantastic. So I'll definitely have to put that on the list. First thing you do in the morning?
best over coffee when my eyes open up. It's not a very flattering thing to say, but I think it's the only thought that happens when my eyes open, and then well, then go down and make a coffee. So I guess that's not surprising.
There you go. There you go. If you could bring a celebrity back from the dead, who would it be?
Ooh, it's a great question.
Hmm.
I know what celebrity I wanna have time with, but I don't know which one would I bring back from the dead. I I mean, this is the fun side of me. Maybe Matthew Perry, because the fact that there wasn't a Friends reboot for me and I'm aging myself, is disappointing. A live celebrity that I wanted to spend time with would be a dream. It's actually, I don't know if celebrity's the term, but the Dalai Lama.
The good
I
one.
would love to spend time with the Dalai Lama. And
Absolutely.
if I wanna be frivolous, maybe one of the housewives from Housewives of Beverly Hills. I can go in many directions, Michelle.
I love these answers. That would be a crazy elevator to be stuck on. Dalai Lama, Matthew Perry, and one of the housewives.
Yeah. Oh, I would love it. That'd be ideal. Not for the rest of them, but for me.
Absolutely. That's all that matters. This is you. This is your game.
Perfect.
What's your legacy?
I want my legacy to be that I had the courage always to stand up for what I believed in. That's what I want. That's what I want it to be.
Beautiful. How do you want to change the world?
I can get emotional on this part. I want the world to be a place where everyone feels they can be authentically them
Mm,
and feel like they belong at the exact same time. And then serve others, be orientated towards others, not just ourselves and the people we know. That's
mm,
yeah, that's the dream.
that's beautiful. I'm with you. Beautiful, beautiful words. Last question. What's next?
Ah, I'm excited about what's next. I joke about my age, but being my age, I'm excited for as my children get older, watching them grow, but I'm excited to grow my business. I feel like I'm entering a new um professional and personal phase, and I have all this energy and I have all this excitement, and Ignite People Solutions is going to really make an impact in our space because we're doing things that are different and we're measuring and focusing on learning. And I'm excited to see how our programs continue to have impact in ways that other people aren't doing it. So yeah, I'm excited about that future.
I love all of this, and that is exciting to see all of that. And I can't wait to see it to come to fruition for you. Thank you so much for this insightful conversation about leadership, about life. And it was amazing. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you to you. Anytime I enjoyed it and I appreciate being part of Maverick Makers. So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
The Maverick Makers podcast is sponsored by Maverick Makers Content Creation Collective. We fuel your content pipeline through video, photography, design, and editorial. Let's connect to your audiences and make more sales. Learn more at maverickmakersco.com.